No, I won't give up. There has to be a way. If you say it exists in the past, present, and future, I'll destroy them all at once.
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Merlina, every world has its end.
Sonic the Hedgehog is my favorite video game franchise. Is there something I know better? Sure. Gears of War has a gripping narrative about the importance of family and the bonds that tie each other together in such a gruesome war. Zelda's gameplay over the years goes leaps beyond anything Sonic has ever pushed out. And Pokemon is tailored to my collector's anxiety while also having some really fantastic stories and characters throughout its run. Realistically, Sonic should be far from my favorite franchise, but there's one big reason why Sonic still remains as my favorite, despite the many faults Sega has had with it over the years. Sonic himself. Sonic remains to be the most consistent and prominent character to come from this franchise. He even has the most amount of fan art out of the trio. I mean, look at him! He's so goddamn cool! Okay, but for real, like, pause the video right now. Just drop whatever you're doing. Go follow Simply Dan Arts on Twitter. They're amazing. Their art is amazing. Just go give them money. They're such a cool person. Sonic has always been what brings me back to these games. And that is all because of the things that he represents throughout the years. Sonic has and has always been a silly blue little hedgehog who runs around and breaks things and endangers the beauty in our world. Starting for the 2D game, Sonic was something rather simple. You fought against the machines that were created by Dr. Robotnik, later to be known as Eggman. The main goal of Sonic's role in these games, however, relates to the themes of environmentalism that Sonic has always had. Granted, it's a lot less present in future games than this one, but it's all tied to Sonic's character and the type of hero that he is. Sonic loves adventure. Whenever there's danger, he acts on it not just to protect the land around him, but also because it's a fun ride for him. It's the main reason why he's refused to form a relationship with Amy ever since Sonic CD. Now, Sonic CD is fine. It's an okay game. I didn't really like any of the level designs or like much of anything really, but Amy and Metal Sonic were like really the only things I was there for. And the relationship that Amy builds from Sonic ever since then is wonderful, because he wouldn't do anything that would slow him down from his adventures. Sure, Amy stuck around anyways due to this carefree nature of his, but Sonic would never instigate on something that would distract him from his own goals. You can call it selfish because in a lot of ways it is. Though through this carefree nature and not being able to slow down, he forms those relationships with his friends very easily. And this comes with another one of Sonic's best traits as later shown in Sonic 2 and 3. His ability to let others follow his lead. When Tails wants to join Sonic on his battle against Robotnik, Sonic doesn't argue or push him away. He lets Tails join himself because he'd rather fight alongside his friends than do it by himself. And this led to him and Tails becoming best friends. The same can also be said when it comes to Knuckles. Knuckles throughout Sonic 3 tried to kill Sonic and was working with Eggman. But once he saw how much Eggman was betraying him in the end, Sonic never dwelled on the past. He let Knuckles tag along and prove that he can do the right thing in the end. A constant that has been shown ever since the 2D era of the games is that Sonic keeps moving forward. He doesn't dwell on the past, waste time arguing, or stop to follow the lead of someone else. His love for adventure ties in really nicely with its innate ability to look towards the future. The best part about all of this is that this is all shown to us without using any words. Through the visual narrative of these 2D games, we can already learn so much about who Sonic is as a character. And these surface level explorations of his character go on to be fleshed out significantly more when we turn this into 3D. The Adventure series is famously known as the best era in Sonic. This consists of Sonic Adventure 1, 2, and sometimes Heroes. But the thing that every Sonic fan can universally agree on is that Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 is what pushed Sonic as a franchise in the right direction. And I could not agree more. The Adventure series is what brought out the deeper lore behind the Sonic universe. We went from freeing animals from robots to discovering the ancient mythos that has existed for thousands of years. Going from environmentalism to the forces behind evil and good. Seriously, a lot of the stuff about Sonic as a franchise and as a character starts from Sonic Adventure 1. We get a proper history of the Master Emerald and the reoccurring narrative behind the expanding the mythology and mysteries behind the Sonic universe. And Sonic as a character feels more defined now that we have an actual dialogue and the story is focused on someone other than Eggman. Sonic is now posed with the question on the essence of being evil and where that can stem from. He's brought back into the past to learn more about chaos and his origin of becoming the god of destruction that he is seeing in the present. How he wasn't born like this but made due to the Echidna's need to control him and use him as a tool. Something that he's seen Eggman do with the critters of the land, which is everything that Sonic is against. The idea of losing that free will, which inevitably led to Chaos being so fueled by anger and hate that he absorbed the negative energy of the Chaos Emeralds and become an agent of destruction. So instead of Sonic simply being the bad guy like he normally does, he uses the positive energy of the Emeralds to counteract the darkness that Chaos has bottled up inside him. Him transforming into Super Sonic is not only a really awesome gameplay moment, but it serves the narrative by having him save Chaos rather than seal him like the call tried to offer.
He must be sealed in the Master Emerald now!
How can that help? It won't change how he feels inside, will it? His heart will still remain in turmoil, and his anger just won't vanish. He'll just be trapped forever.
His approach towards his antagonist is always used to understand their true intentions. I mean, he already knows that Eggman has always been evil, but this case isn't true for characters like Knuckles or Chaos.
You're horrible! You're an irredeemable monster!
What took you so long, idiot?
And the same also applies to Shadow and Adventure 2. Granted, I personally don't find Hidden Shadow's race to be fleshed out as it should be, but Sonic does take an interest in Shadow towards the end. Much like Knuckles, Sonic doesn't dwell on the past actions Shadow has done and gives him a chance to prove himself by helping him stop the Bio Lizard. Sonic offers second chances, and that fact starts to become more apparent by Sonic Adventure 2. This kind-hearted, open-minded nature of Sonic is what pushes the people around him to be better. Him merely existing as this guy who thrives off the thrill of it all is what inspires Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow to be the best versions of themselves. Shadow, despite having to deal with so much pain and trauma, comes to respect Sonic and his ability to never give up. And that respect leads him to following by Sonic's example and to be the hero that he and Maria want him to be.
So, there's more to you than just looking like me. What are you, anyway?
What you see is what you get. Just a guy that loves adventure. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog!
Sonic's forgiveness is by far my favorite thing about his character, and it's the main reason why I still believe in these games. Because despite all failures some games have, Sonic always giving people that chance to be better is why I always come back. It's his most consistent part of his character that is almost never fucked up. He brings so much light and hope around him because he believes in living in the future. He believes that he, along with those around him, can keep moving forward to become the best versions of themselves. Now, I've already talked well enough about how perfectly represented he is in the movies, so you could just go check that out in the little info card. So instead, I'm going to talk about two of my favorite stories of Sonic to this day. Sonic Unleashed and Sonic and the Black Knight. These two stories are without a doubt some of my favorite interpretations of the character, because they're everything that I want to see from Sonic in future games and more. Remember how I kept saying how Sonic is the one to push forward towards a brighter future? Well, that's best represented in these two games. Sonic Unleashed is about Sonic helping Chip recover his memories while also giving Chip the experiences of simply living life. He shows him that it's okay to enjoy the little things every once in a while, when Chip is clearly so stressed out about finding out who he is. And once he does find out who he is, Chip believes that the journey's over. There's no reason for Sonic to be around him anymore, so why should he stick around? Why continue to hang out with Chip when there's no problem to solve or a deed to fulfill? And well, throughout the game and this moment right here, Sonic answers this question without even needing to think about it. Why not?
Do I need a reason to want to help out a friend?
Thanks, Sonic.
Everything that Sonic has done for his friends and sometimes his enemies has all been unconditional. He does things without reason other than simply being the type of person that he is. He wants to help his friends. He wants to give those who have fallen so far another chance at life. And this becomes even more true with Sonic and the Black Knight. Gameplay aside, this is one of the strongest stories Sonic has. Not only is it a very unique concept, the essence of what it takes being a knight fits so well with how Sonic is in the game. He doesn't find a purpose behind following the words of someone else. He honors his enemies by allowing them to live, a lot different to what the rest of the Round Table believes how a knight should operate. Sonic follows his own rules, which is exactly the behavior the Lady of the Lake needed from Sonic. A knight who is willing to follow his heart rather than some moral code or as an act of chivalry. A true knight that never gives up, who always finds a solution, and someone who is willing to show compassion. And that is the true meaning behind bravery.
Merlina, every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
Now, I can honestly talk about this forever. I can go on and on about how games like Secret of the Rings, Generations, Colors, and all of that handled the character extremely well. But it's not a Sonic video without some salt. Much like Shadow and Silver, Sonic himself is no stranger to the disease of misrepresentation. See, like, the reason I haven't exactly brought up 06 yet is because, well, there really isn't much to say of Sonic in 06. I know it's crazy, because, like, the past 2 videos, I've talked about how great Sonic 06 is, but here it's the complete opposite. Ironically enough, a game titled Sonic the Hedgehog hardly feels like it's about Sonic the Hedgehog. He has no connection to Mephiles other than to be a tool to make Elise cry. So it's been well established that Sonic doesn't take detours for other people, but that's all he does in this game. Not once has he ever done something for himself or follow his own path. He is so glued to Elise in the game that he's hardly had any time for Sonic to be, well, Sonic. His personality in this game is non-existent. We were blueballed so hard by this opening because it tricked us into thinking that Sonic was going to be the highlights, and then the rest of the game happened and his story is boring as shit. We are always backtracking to save Elise, and this is both a gameplay and narrative failure. He never gets involved nor seems to care about anything that's happening outside of Elise. Sonic never once interacts with the main villain of the game, and that in of itself tells you how little Sonic matters in the main story. I think they could have had a really strong dynamic with Elise and showing her that she doesn't need to be so guarded over her emotions. How showing any form of expression of herself isn't going to literally break the world. But that is so poorly handled because we barely get any time for them to interact due to a constant kidnapping. The potential behind Sonic showing someone the true beauty of living in the moment and enjoying the world around you was very clear from how Elise and Sonic interact when they can. But instead, they decided to turn it into a love story. And I feel like with enough time to second guess their choices and go back, they could have given Elise more of a character and showed Sonic off as this great, reliable guy that he is. It could have been so much better than this. Look, I could just move on to the next topic right now. I could just end the section of the video because I ragged on 06, which is realistically all I need for a good Sonic video. But I'm sorry to say that I have yet another glaring issue with how Sonic is treated sometimes. Something that I don't even think anyone really sees as a problem, and it might just be entirely a me thing. Sonic in some games is way too cocky. And yeah, I know he's supposed to be arrogant and headstrong. Though too much of that attitude being put on display can make him look really fucking stupid. Sonic Lost World is a result of how too much show of Sonic's attitude can really fuck up his character. His readiness to follow Eggman's plan is what starts the entire conflict of the game because Sonic was too stupid to stop and think. The accident itself isn't necessarily my problem, it's the fact that he never sees this as a mistake. Sonic never blames himself for the Zeddy for causing a rampage and just constantly takes dabs at Eggman instead of taking accountability. This leads to him being such an annoying asshole and his character never goes far outside of this. Now you could say that Sonic being too overconfident can lead to an instant character arc. That him being so cocky that he starts to believe that he is better than everyone else can make him for some good growth in much older Sonic. However, I'm going to say something that will definitely have me cancelled. I don't like it when they do this either.
Not cool, Sonic.
Sonic Boom Riser Lyric, as bad as a game that is, has been praised for giving Sonic a good character. How he now has to realize that his friends can take care of themselves. How he needs to stop interfering and trust his friends' abilities. It's perceived as a good arc because Sonic has been taking care of his friends for so long that could potentially lead into believing that his friends are more dependent on him than they actually are. But as believable as this is, I can't say that I enjoy it too much. I really don't enjoy oversaturating Sonic's confidence to the point where he's a dick to his friends. His overconfidence should only be directed towards his enemies, not towards the people he's grown so attached to for years. And I realize that as I say this, you're probably thinking that I must dislike Sonic Prime as a result of me hating how he is in Riser Lyric. And while you're right to believe that, I think it's at least a lot toned down in Prime than it is here. because at least in Prime, he feels more oblivious than anything. Now I think they handle the arc far better than they do in Rise of Lyric. He grows out of his overconfidence and reminds himself the value of he has with his friends, and it feels so natural as it takes time to explore each character's relationship with Sonic. Here in Rise of Lyric, the conclusion to it kind of feels shoehorned in. Another reason why I dislike amping up how cocky Sonic can be is related to another problem I've had with recent projects with Sonic. Not something that comes from his character, but how he's presented in the games. Sonic is not a god. After a while, Sonic gets put on a bit too high of a pedestal. That if he's not around, then the rest of his friends are absolutely useless. That if something happens to Sonic, then all of his friends have no use in the story at all. And I think you all know which game I'm referring this to.
Sonic!
Oh man, Sonic Forces is just the game that keeps on giving because I can always find something to hate about it without ever playing it. After Sonic's supposed death, most if not all of his friends almost immediately give up. All of the work that they do after Sonic's disappearance is happen off screen, and it cuts right when ROC appears. And ROC is portrayed as the only person who can go and find Sonic once they find out he's alive. I mean, it really says a lot about his friend's role when they have to rely on everything on somebody they just met when Sonic isn't present. While Sonic has been shown to be extremely powerful, he isn't unstoppable. The entire point behind scrapping Hypersonic is that so he doesn't become too powerful where every other character isn't needed. Sonic is supposed to struggle and fail. He's supposed to fall. He's not supposed to just walk out of prison and act like nothing happened. It's so jarring for Sonic to be kidnapped by Eggman only to come back to him and he's completely fine, escaping like it's no problem. Like seriously, what was everyone else even there for? Did they even need to be in the game? God, I'm rambling too much, I'm sorry. And what's worse is that once Sonic is back, all of his friends take a backseat and let Sonic do basically all the work in the narrative. He's the only one outside our character and... and another Sonic who battles with the main thread while the rest of his friends don't do anything significant. And to me, that is the worst part about how recent games have treated Sonic. The best part about him isn't when he saves the day, but how he saves it, along with his friends. That no matter how hard he gets hit, how much he struggles, and how impossible things may seem, that he always gets back up. That he breaks through every limit possible to prevail, for the sake of his friends and that hope of a life worth living.
Come and live your life, vandalize my heart.
This is why I stick around. Sonic has never, ever been perfect. Nothing ever is. It has its terrible games, misrepresentation of characters, and flat out disrespected everything Sonic as a franchise has stood for from time to time. But I could care less now, because we were given a game that keeps the true passion and love for the characters and the narrative that this franchise keeps. The Ancients have such an interesting history that builds off what we've already explored with Chaos, along with maybe even the history of Light and Dark Gaia. This whole new dimension is fantastic to explore and discover with the characters as the game goes along. But most importantly, the character work for each and every one of the characters feel like themselves. They all feel like they've been brought back to their roots while continuing off the arcs and stories that they've already gone through. Amy's unrequited love for the world connects so nicely with Sonic's hope. Tails has to go through the process of understanding what growing up really means now that he's learned that he can't depend on Sonic forever. Eggman, of all people, learns the value of humanity and love through Sage, which honestly feels like this was a result of having to deal with Sonic and friends for so long. And I'm going to say this now, Sonic in this game is exactly why I think he doesn't need the arc that he was shown to have in Rise of Lyric, or even Prime for that matter. He's arrogant but never to a drastic extent. He inspires all of his friends to follow their dreams through his carefree nature instead of being a selfish dick who is unaware of the world around him. And his self-sacrifice with the corruption, being able to still smile when he can hardly breathe, is what makes Sonic so special of a character to me. Sonic is not a god. This is the most Sonic has ever struggled in any game. His mind and body slowly splits apart between dimensions, and he knows that. But he fights through the pain, the constant battles against the Titans, and all the mental torture so he can save his friends. Because he cares that goddamn much. Something that even Sage admires and wishes that she can have that same compassion from Eggman. Sonic is not a god. And that is what makes him Sonic the Hedgehog.
Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the works of yesterday.